starting fresh a second time. So this is committee on the Senate Agricultural Committee's second meeting of the morning, and it's 10:16 or 17, and we'll get started. We had a little bit of time between our last meeting and our next meeting, so I thought it would maybe give us a little time to talk in regards to the dairy pricing regulations that the DFR went over with us. Michael Piszak went over with us last week, and Kelly's with us, and we already had one discussion and didn't know if if there were issues there, if you thought much about that, to give any comments on where you think we ought to go forward with, or have more people in to question regards to that, that report. Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What I'm remembering most about Michael Piszak's presentation was, in the end, they really didn't have any suggestion or solution for us. I know that Senator Leahy is still on the Senate Agriculture Committee, I believe, in Washington. And I don't know, because I'm not as familiar with the pricing, the milk pricing situation. How often do they change it? What sort of influence would he have, to take a look at how it affects Vermont? I mean, I'm sure he does. It isn't like this is news to him. He's been on that committee for a long time. But that was about the only thing I could think of. I mean, we can't just all of a sudden decide what the federal milk price is going to be. That has to come from them. And it didn't seem like he was saying, Michael Piszak, that is, that we could add a premium, for Vermont fluid or even cheese, and sort of get away with it. So I think it's got to come from the federal government, but I don't know.
Well, either region, they talked about regionally being able to maybe get together, but yeah, it's the whole problem all these years has been with the federal milk market order and not being able to make positive changes for the farmers' benefit. They've made plenty for the processors' benefit, but very few, if any, for the farmers' benefit. And, like I said the other day, people are going in and paying basically as much for a pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream as they are for a gallon of milk. Well, there's a heck of a lot more nourishment in a gallon of milk than there is in a pint of ice cream. So the big issue is people say that, some say that people won't buy milk because it's too high a price. Well, if you want, I don't buy beer because I don't drink beer or that, but price of beer, I'm sure, has gone up in the last 20 years. And the price of milk is actually lower now than it was 20 years ago in the stores. And the lady that kind of turned the light bulb on cost was the lady from up in Franklin County that spoke about trying to sell milk, and it's $1 for the jug. It's 5 cents for the cap. It's, I don't know, 30 cents for the labels. And and the store keeps 20% of the sale price. And, you keep deducting, and that there's nothing left for the farmer. And instead of the price being up to, $6 a gallon, we're starting out at a too lower price. And so I don't know. You guys, other guys have thoughts on that? Anthony, you played with milk pricing for
Yeah,
many
too long.
years.
The problem is it has to do with controlling the milk, and the processors and the people who move milk around are the ones who actually control it. I mean, what you'd really have to do, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but you'd have to be able to form like a union of farmers who say that they want to bargain for the price of milk. And if they don't get the price they want, then they're not going to provide their milk to those processors, which of course the processors could just say no, and the farmers have nowhere to send their milk unless there's some other way of moving it. But that's what it comes down to, is somebody has to be able to control the milk supply and be able to like bargain with the processors or somehow move the processors in a different direction. In the old world, the state would there'd be a group of farmers who would form a union, and the state would purchase the milk or set the price for the milk that goes through the union. But I mean, that's hard to imagine that happening in our world, to tell you the truth, but that's what really needs to happen. I mean, years ago, we got a group of farmers to sign cards saying that they were willing to join a union of farmers. And within a couple of months, really, we got over a third of the milk in the state of Vermont farmers signed on to. These are some of the big farmers, it was the Rowells as well as smaller farmers. And they all basically said that they would be willing to be part of a negotiating group that would try to meet with the co-ops and try to bargain for either a better price or reduced expenses, reduce, like, what do you call those things, the stop fees, transportation costs, that kind of stuff. And we met with Agrimark, we met with St. Albans, we met with, I think it was DFA at the time. But they were not willing to budge. They basically were calling the farmers bluff. It was sad because the farmers were willing to put their names on cards saying, we want to be a part of this, but there's just not an alternative place to send their milk. So some of it got dumped, but a lot of it just, the union, the effort fell apart because farmers were not able to bring their milk anywhere else.
I didn't know, Roger Albee wasn't on the call last week, but I think I stayed there, Smith, and he didn't say anything or ask any questions. But I'm wondering if it would pay to have him come in, for a half hour or 45 minutes and and discuss what he thought came out of that report that would be meaningful and give us some reason to move forward in some fashion to try to to keep the ball rolling a little bit.
Yeah, I think that would be worth it. I think because there's a level at which you want to just throw up your hands and say, well, there's nothing we can do about this. But on the other hand, you don't want to do that unless you're absolutely sure there's nothing you can do about this. And I think having them come in and talk with us a little bit about their perception or what ideas they may have would be worth it, to have that conversation, I think.
Well, I mean, from our visits with the watershed people, we're asking and expecting, our farmers and ag landowners to move forward with sustainable ag practices. And, they were pretty good about not complaining about the price of milk too bad. But
But if you want,
you know,
if you want sustainable agriculture, you have to have a sustainable price. That's the bottom line. I mean, asking these people to do things a certain way in order to keep the industry sustainable and the environment sustainable, but they're expected to do it without a sustainable income or sustainable price. And I think that's what farmers want more than a higher price. I think it's fair to say that most farmers would want a stable price. They want to know what they're going to get. Even if they're not going to get $20, they're only going to get 18. They want to know they're going to get 18. Then they can operate under the knowledge that they're going to get 18. They set a target for their expenses and the price they're going to get. So it's the ups and downs that is really a problem for people.
Chris.
My attitude is that it is maybe not time to permanently accept, but maybe we're wise to acknowledge our ability to impact price of milk is just about zero, and work on some of the other things that also produce income, payment for ecosystem services, maybe the idea of we've been trying to get the local food into schools, which should generate markets. We've learned in New York did generate markets. So some of that stuff that has an indirect impact on bottom lines for farmers, it strikes me as within our control, at least.
Yep.
The only thing about all that makes me feel kind of bad is that to get money for ecosystem payments, or sustainable practices, any of that is all good, but we're going to have to get taxpayer money to be able to do that, right? I mean, we aren't going to get it off a tree.
Yeah, but I guess my attitude has, or my hope has been that some of this could come out of the clean water money that we're already spending, right? This is very clearly halting runoff, these practices. And we're spending millions and millions, I mean, tens of millions on clean water. And so it's been my hope that we could just tuck some of that money to this in a more direct relationship.
Yeah, but all along, what we're actually doing, if you really think about it, is subsidizing these processors and the storekeepers, and it should be coming out of the market. So I mean, and that well, we only heard it, I think, maybe once. Was somebody said, well, when we had the compact, everything was good. Well, it was good. And the real weird part of that whole deal was that we never used any of taxpayer money. It came out of the system and it stabilized the store prices so that people that were, on fixed incomes and low incomes, it really helped them, because the milk dealers and processors couldn't jack the price 50 cents a gallon, or it stayed more stable so they could plan on it. And
How many people were in that compact lobby?
all of New England states.
New York?
And well, the eastern part of New York, because they go into our order,
Right.
they received, I don't know, like $150 million out of the compact, and yet they couldn't get it passed in their legislature. But it came in, so we had compensatory payments built into that. So they got their same pay as the rest of the farmers in New England. But heck, you're you'd never get that through Congress today. Boehner's the one that messed it up. The last time that, well, when Bill Rowell and that crew went to DC, Boehner wouldn't bring it up on the House side. And so they never got to vote on it. But Corey?
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with Senator Pearson if there's a way to take some more water quality money and find ways to put it on farmers, because I think a lot of folks have given farmers a black eye over this. I think they've done good work and continue to have good work to do on that front. Also, I think understanding what our limitations are, I said it last time, I think we really got to look at the programs we're doing to help farmers, with business practices and risk management, and see if they're, where we can shore those up and, make them better. Are they teaching the right, I know we do programs from, but are they teaching the right things? Are they really focusing on the right stuff of what we're hearing from farmers? So I think we just may want to analyze that and put some pressure, to help farmers with their business management practices and their risk management. We can only kind of help them on the business end, it seems.
Yeah.
Well, and the capacity for those programs are way too small. I mean, those programs, people tell us, have been effective, but they can take 15 people a year. We need them to take 150 people a year.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we can find funding for that, or even, something I'd be supportive of.
Well, sometime we ought to get Ryan Patch in and see how that's moving forward, and what we could do to beef that up. I think would be a positive move forward. So we could have Dan in and just get his view of the report that we got last week, and see what he thinks. If there was any positive stuff that came out of that we could possibly do. Then start looking at with, I don't know who over at the agency, but some of those, I don't know if it would be the agency or the ag extension that should be working on like risk management plans and things in that direction.
Well, and it's the viability folks. Viability folks, right?
Yeah, Gus's crew, Ella, where she's going to be leaving, but hopefully the other lady that's taken over will, talk about that and see. We can ask them how that's all going. Did you notice the other day they kept talking about the cost of production? They got to work on cost of production. We got to get to work and keep that. If you're a big farm, your cost of production is much better than if you're a small farm. Well, when I asked the lady from DFA, well, give us a ballpark figure of the number that we could shoot for. Should we shoot for $17, $18, $15? She never came back with an answer. And so hell, if you don't have a starting point, how do you get to the finish line? And that's kind of bad too. Because we have production costs that are all over the place. If you're 35 years old and you just took over your dad's farm and dad's going to retire, your production cost is going to be quite a lot higher than the guy that's maybe 50 years old and has been farming for 30 years. So, but if they would just give us a ballpark number, so that we would know how much do we have to help out in between, you could shoot for that. But Kelly, how about you? Did you come up with any great resolves from the meeting after you've had a weekend or so to think about it?
Unfortunately, I don't think I have all the solutions, but if there are specific legal questions that I can answer, I'll do my best.
Well, I think we are in a much more positive spot than you are. And you'd think with our years of experience, we might have, but we'll certainly keep working on it. And so do you much, Corey, from the farmers up in?
You're cutting out, Bobby. I don't know if it was me or you.
No, it was Bobby, because it was the same way here. You talked like an alien for a minute and then it went away.
On me, well,
Funny sounding alien.
I'm sort of an alien.
Bad choice of
No,
words.
I'm asking the question, do you hear anything from the folks up in Franklin County, the farmers up there?
Yeah, I mean, we've heard from a good chunk of them ourselves as a committee, but in various conversations, it's the education, it's the risk management piece. Some of my farmers built up a beef operation in the last year or two, and now they're having, obviously those issues being able to process their beef. So, I think, we've told them to diversify in some spots where they have it hasn't worked. So I think that I haven't been able to dive into it, but Leon Berthium did send me an article that I scanned, but just, a net zero dairy and some conversations about that. So maybe there's places we can plug in and, if resources are available there. But I think they're, to me, they want to do what they've done for business, but, I think it's just finding ways. There are things they suggest that couldn't get through this body. I mean, I'd love to take them out of Efficiency Vermont, and I'd love to get rid of their permit fees, but I have a feeling that would have a rough passage through the building, if at all. But I think the most we can do is help educate them, and then most of them are my friends' fathers, and so my friends, who are looking to take over their father's farms, it's trying to understand how they can do that. That generational transition and how everyone can afford it. We saw one of the Brandon farms, in Fairfield go over to the Horrigans, but the young Brandon didn't want to take over the farm, and so it's and that's Brucey Sarah's brother's farm.
Pat.
No, it was Bruce's farm, so it was RJ and them. So
their sons didn't, it would be Pat's sons, right?
Bruce's son.
Bruce's son, and he didn't want to farm.
No. And I grew up with RJ. So some of Harold Horgan's boys who are my age are going over there to take that one over. But, they're still eventually going to have to buy their father's farms and do all that. So anything we can, you're seeing it not just in dairy, but in businesses across Vermont. Some of these businesses have grown to the size where an average Vermonter can't afford to buy them. And so, we've got to figure out this whole, this continuity planning, if you will, or this transition of generations of businesses.
Yeah. Well, I know we have quite a lot of work ahead of us, trying to figure that all out. And what I'll try to work Dan in between, you know, if we have a slow time next week in between, other business, I'll try to, uh, give him a, you know, a half hour, 45 minutes to, come and give us his, perspective and, on where we ought to go. And I think Michael's going to be with us maybe tomorrow. So we can talk with him some as well. So anything else, Chris?
Kelly, do you know, or maybe you could ask Michael, when we look at the food waste bill, the compost bill, there's been a proposal from Carrie Jaguar to broaden it a little bit, and we've gone back and forth with the two agencies. Do you have that language, or do you know if Michael has it from Carrie? Because I'm not sure. Maybe we did see it, but that does strike me as the next step for us as we try to tackle that one.
Yeah.
I have not seen that language yet, and I don't believe Michael has either, but we're happy to work on that as soon as we get that language.
Is it appropriate, Mr. Chair, to ask Kelly to reach out to Carrie and try to get that going?
Yeah, definitely. And get that and yeah, because hopefully in the next week to a week and a half, we can get that bill out and gone. And
No doubt Ray will want to look at it.
yeah, you better have some visits with him. Make sure you haven't got earplugs in though when you talk to him. If you could do that, Kelly, that would probably help Michael quite a bit as well, and get that ready to go. And we'll be sure to have that on the schedule for next week.
I'll do that, Mr. Chair.
Just for
Yeah,
what it's worth,
appreciate
I've seen that language somewhere in my email. I know I've seen it because I remember skimming through it, and there was things about it that didn't make sense to me. Like I couldn't quite get what they were getting at. So he might say, if you call him, Kelly, or you contact him, he might say, well, I already sent that, because I'm pretty sure I got something. I'll look for it, but doesn't mean you shouldn't call him and ask him to send it to you, you know, because you're the one who needs to see it. But I remember getting it and looking through it and just wondering kind of what they were trying to achieve. Like it was just sloppily done, to put it one way.
Well, with that, we'll shift gears, and we have the folks with us.
Can I say, Bobby, before we do that, I did find it. It's in my email. It came from Linda on January 25th. It says, Linda, this is what the agency would like to see incorporated into the chicken and compost bill. Please distribute to the committee.
But you didn't think that it was?
I just had a hard time dealing with it, reading through it. Kelly, what's your email, Kelly?
It is KMcGill, KMCGILL at ledge.state.vt.us.
There it is.
Thank you.
Anything else? Well, we'll switch over to Betsy and Faye and Amy and anyone else that happens to jump on here with us in regards to our education bill. And Fay, I guess, if you want to give us a little update on hooking what we talked about, hooking the three different proposals together and into one bill that seemed to make sense. If you could talk a little bit about that. I guess Jim was supposed to be here, but like normally, he was booked up already or busy somewhere. So if you could lead off, we know all you folks, and you just introduce yourselves as your turn comes up. That'll be fine.
Sure.
So
absolutely.
welcome and good to see you.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Fay Mack. I am here from Hunger Free Vermont today. Thanks for having us back in. So just to share a little bit of an update and frame out this conversation today, Senator Starr had reached out to us about the idea of, there are a lot of food security and local food related requests this year and opportunities. And is there a way to kind of address a few of them holistically and comprehensively, because we know that they all are needed to work together in order to feed the full system. And so Hunger Free and Vermont Feed and some other folks connected, and the three where we really found some alignment around how to sort of holistically have a single bill is around how we're feeding kids at school. So focusing in on school food, knowing that there are a couple of other food security and local agriculture related requests, appropriations requests, like Vermonters Feeding Vermonters and the NOFA Farm Share Program. But those feel separate because they're not part of the institution of schools. But there are three school related opportunities: universal school meals, the local purchasing incentive, also called Vermont Food for Vermont Kids, and fully funding farm to school at $500,000 are all connected within how we're feeding kids when they're at school, and the ways that local agriculture connects into that. And so we're really excited about the idea of approaching all three together. One of the things that became really clear in hearing testimony from our partners over the last couple of weeks is just how interrelated they are, and how the support that comes from a fully funded farm to school program is really needed to be able to provide the technical assistance to make the local purchasing incentive successful and strong. The local purchasing bill would help schools offset the cost of universal school meals and improve meal quality. So they're all so connected that it makes a lot of sense to look at them together. So we're excited about the opportunity, and today I think the hope is just to talk about what that might look like and what the process would be. And if Jim's able to join at some point or afterwards, we're happy to work directly with him or Mike on Ledge Council in helping to kind of craft this too in whatever way we can be helpful.
Well, with as many programs as there are out there, I just feel that if, as we move forward, if we can have a packaged program that works well together as well our students, that'll be great. And I know, the feds are talking even about having some type of a federal deal with universal meals. And if we've got a system that's pretty well ready to go and that breaks loose, we could get into that system, I would really quick. And so that's good that we're working in that direction. The committee, what do you think in regards to that? no comments? Got them all, we got them all tongue-tied.
It seems like a good approach.
Yeah, I think so.
Have you gotten to the point where you could, probably no drafting has been done yet?
We aren't able to work with ledge council directly unless you or another senator gives us permission. So we need a written or verbal on this, or some way for Jim or Mike O'Grady to get instruction to connect with us, and then we're able to do that. But we haven't gotten that yet.
Linda, are you on, Linda?
Yes.
Did you get that word to Jim in regards to working with Faye and Betsy and the crew to work on that, work on this?
All I've done so far is invite him to this meeting, which he couldn't come to, and ask him if he'd been in touch, which I believe he's gotten correspondence from Faye and Betsy and Amy. But I'll find out how to officially let him know so he can take it over.
Thank you, Linda.
Yeah, I thought we'd taken care of that, and so we'll keep working on it. Yeah, Chris.
Well, maybe Anthony had a question. I don't want to jump.
I was just to say the thing to do is to send an email to Jim and to Faye and to a few others, like connect them all in an email with Bobby or one of our names on it, and say that, Jim, we'd like you to work with these folks to do whatever. So send everybody an email to Jim, to Faye, to Betsy, and to Amy, and say, we want you to work with these folks.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, would you like me to do that right now?
You could, but I thought that's what was happening from the office. But yeah, go ahead, and if we double send it, it won't do any harm.
Okay, I'll take care of that, Linda, and I'll copy you and the chair.
Thank you
Great.
all. And I will say that
Yeah.
both the local incentive purchasing bill and the universal school meals bill have been introduced in the House. So there's language. So I think we can move, it can come together pretty quickly once we're able to get going.
And you would want
So-
the language to be the same?
Yes.
And you don't see a need to change or build on what they've done?
No, I think we're really interested once your committee and whoever else this kind of bill would go to starts to take a look at it, about what kinds of changes may arise. But I think at the moment, at least I looked at Betsy for the local purchasing language, but from the universal school meals language, we're really happy with what was introduced in the House and as a good starting point.
Okay.
Yeah, and Betsy?
Just that I believe the House bill that was introduced was the same local purchasing incentive bill that passed out of your committee last year. So I think there is a section about corrections that I don't know if that remains, or if it's a school nutrition focus, maybe that goes somewhere else in legislation. But we'd be happy to do that. And I just would ask the committee and Mr. Chair if there's anything we can do to best support you to get the information you need for this to move it along.
Was that somebody with a question? No. The corrections part, I don't recall, we had that in there last year in our bill.
I think we did, yeah.
And Betsy, are you are you asking if that should come out and just deal with the school and that if we leave corrections in, then probably Sears would want to look at it because he looks after the corrections issues. And I think if we could keep it narrowed where only ag education and hopefully appropriations would be the three committees that would have to deal with it, it would be easier. And as long as we're on this, have any of you folks have been in education already? No? So, you know,
Not, no.
Yeah, we have not this year.
well, it's gonna be important that you get hold of Chairman Brian and get an appointment in there. But I think being new, you might want to go in only once the kind of the rough draft has been put together. And I don't know if there were other major changes to the committee makeup in there or not. Do you guys know anything about that?
Yep, I can tell you. Cheryl Hooker is the vice chair. She's new on the committee. Thomas Chittenden is a brand new senator, and Josh Tiranzini is a brand new senator. So there's, I think Pertzler was on it last year, and Lyons might be a new member too.
Oh, goodness. But yeah, with Chittenden County, several from Chittenden County on there, it might be a very positive thing because they've been pushing universal meals in Chittenden County for a long time, and they have a very successful program, and so that might be good. And then you have two from Rutland on there.
Yep.
And they would be helpful. But Campion, I don't know if we got to talk with him about this last year much, but I think he would be very understanding of the issues. Chris?
I would guess they are understanding. Everyone's going to love this idea. It's just going to be, how do we pay for it? So do we have some strategy that's cooking up? I know we've been in this sort of de facto universal meal time. And so I'm just curious, maybe I missed that part, but do we have, Mr. Chair, have you guys figured that out already?
No. As my wife has heard me say many times, I don't get too concerned over the money. You can usually find it if you've got enough people, looking for it. But I think a positive thing we've got going is that Washington, they keep talking about all this money for education. Well, hundreds of millions of dollars. Well, we've already given them hundreds of millions already for our 80-odd thousand students, and there should be some of this federal money that at least could get this thing kicked off and running, and it's going to prove its own worth if we can do so, and there, they're talking about a universal meals program in DC. So I think the money will be there if we get the program put together, and it makes good common sense to move forward. I've talked with Jane to some degree about it, and she, well, you know, let's get it put together and we'll go from there. So
But my attitude is if we're adding local incentives to help farmers, this is a 30-0 vote. I mean, I could be wrong, but it's a good idea. So I'm all for putting it together, and you know, if we don't put it together and then money comes along, someone else will gobble it up. So we should be ready for that. I think that's a smart strategy.
yeah. So yes, Faye.
I wanted to say I could chime in a little bit around the cost and the federal conversation too, if it's helpful, just to provide a bit of context of what we're hearing, and also to say I really appreciate the note about Senate education this year, and we haven't been able to get in there, and we would love to, and perhaps it, you know, just to offer if it makes sense for there to be a joint hearing at some point, since you folks have a really deep knowledge about these bills, that could be an interesting way to introduce it as well, and have a conversation with the Education Committee. But in terms of expense, so I can share that we're finalizing a new round of our estimate on the financial impact that Universal School Meals would have on the education fund. And so we'll have data from both the fall of 2018 and the fall of 2019. So we have 2 years worth of cost to take data to take a look at for our estimate. And we're in the process of working with the Joint Fiscal Office on, I think they're likely developing a new fiscal note this year for it. So there will be more information. I can say from I was just looking at it before this, and looking at 2019 data, we're coming out pretty close to where we had come out with 2018 data. So it's remaining pretty consistent, which makes me feel really confident in the estimate. I also, just to say, at the federal level, there are options, certainly, if more funding comes into the state, absolutely. And at the same time, I know that there is a lot of information swirling around how Congress might shift the school meal, shift school meals and move toward universal school meals. Our sense is that there is a likely opportunity to enhance the two federal options that schools can use to go to universal school meals. So either making more schools eligible for the community eligibility provision, which is the one that works a little bit better for schools, or to just increase the financial reimbursements that schools would get. I believe that Senator Sanders is planning to reintroduce his full universal school meals bill again this year. I think we're really excited about that and excited to work on it. And I think it's going to take a while. So the view or just the way that I've heard you, Mr. Chair, and others talk about having Vermont be well set up to take advantage of these opportunities as they come from the federal government, I think is really smart, and it will allow us to kind of keep moving and not just have to wait for, whatever Congress may or may not be able to do.
Yeah, Amy?
Hello, for the record, Amy Schollenberger, and I work with both Hunger Free Vermont and the Farm to School Network. To Senator Pearson's question, I wanted to highlight also two other things in addition to what Faye said. The first is the universal school meal does envision a pot of one-time money to help schools with the transition to universal school meals, which might be more readily available this year. So even if the whole bill doesn't move forward this year, perhaps getting that pot of money set up so that schools could have access to it. To Senator Starr's point, if things are percolating, then we would be ready for that. The other thing that's a relatively small but ongoing appropriation in the Universal School Meals Bill is the position, another position in the Child Nutrition Program at the Agency of Education. And you know, we are thinking that more schools may be transitioning over to universal meals, regardless of whether the bill passes or not, because nothing prohibits them from doing it. And we would like to make sure that the agency has the capacity to help those programs or those schools transition. So those are two things that are a smaller price tag. One is one time, one is ongoing. And that coupled with the local food incentive could really help schools to move towards universal meals as we go forward.
Yeah, I know Rosie, I think, testified to the point that, you know, she bucked up pretty solid, and that the main thing is to go slow, but have stuff lined up. But that's where the new employee would be housed, is over in education as a nutritionist.
Yes, in the nutrition program as basically a support person for schools. Could I also ask a clarifying question, Senator Starr? So when we're working with Ledge Council, we'll probably have to know this answer, whether you're envisioning this to be a committee bill, or whether you're thinking you'll introduce it and then get it referred.
Well, I don't see if the committee's agreeable, we'd just make it a committee bill. A committee bill's really a lot stronger bill than an individual bill. And if the committee feels comfortable, you know, we would draft it up as a committee bill. It would go almost come to committee, but be on the floor the next day, but have it referred back to committee for further review. And then, you know, try to put the finishing touches on it with education. But we've got to get those folks involved, and because that'll make, you know, if you get our 5 and their 5, you know, that's a third of the Senate already that you've got on your side. So you only need 5 more or so, or 6, and you're 6 more and you're home free. So
I think they have 6.
They have 6?
I think so.
Oh. So they aren't a committee of 5.
No, they do have 6. Yep.
Oh, hell, we could even lose one of them and still have 10. But how about your new guy, Brian from Rutland, that's in there? Is he into kids' well-being and all that good stuff, or?
Well, he's got 4 kids, so I think he's pretty much on board.
Well, it must cost him a lot every week just to feed them.
Yep.
But in a case like that, can you imagine if it costs $4 a meal? So you got $16 a day for 5 days is $70 just to pay for hot lunch. I mean, $70 a week. That's yeah, it can't be easy. Yeah. So does that answer your question, Amy? Did you ask that?
Yes, I did, and thank you. And we were hoping you would say it was a committee bill, so I'm glad that's the route you're going.
Well,
Thank you.
It's a good thing you told me to say that. No, a committee bill is the best way to to go, especially on a big bill. You don't want to just have one name stuck up there. So I think we'll keep working on this until we can get it where, all the members are happy and could sign on. We'll work off the draft as long as we can to working it toward a committee bill. Yeah. So there are other questions that you folks would like to raise, Anthony?
Yeah, I want to ask just about the farm share program. You folks are obviously familiar with it. Does it fit into a package that you're looking at, or is it separate?
So we talked with NOFA, who's the lead with that
Right.
request, and they run that program. And it's not connected with schools, and that was where the free request feel really connected with schools. The farm share program is an appropriations request too. It doesn't need to be part of a bill, so they're hoping to have that funded through that way.
Right, that's what I presume, that because it's not really legislated, except that the money goes to somebody to administer the money. But you folks would certainly be supportive of that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very supportive of that, and we're very supportive of the Vermont Food Bank's requests as well, too, as kind of rounding out the food security picture right now.
Right. Okay. I mean, I presume so. I just wanted to make sure it was on the table.
Yes.
Yeah, and both of those issues deal basically with just money. It isn't like we need to put a bill together. So the three issues we have are program policy issues. I think if we do a good job putting that together, I don't know, Chris, if we get a 30 zip vote, but if we can get Collimore and Perrin on, it might be.
I'm an easier yes, I think, Senator.
And I don't know about Collimore, but Perrin, we could break his arm. And
I mean, if senators don't like kids or farmers, then they can vote no. But that would surprise me.
Well,
I don't have 4 kids like Senator Peranzini, but I have a 2.5-year-old, so I get it.
If they don't like farmers, they probably shouldn't be on this committee.
Yeah. No, the secret of legislation passed, and especially in the committee, is you keep working on it until the whole crew basically can agree upon it. And sometimes over in the House, I worked with a chair for years over there and worked with with the minority party as the majority party in my committee room. And that's the way I learned to do it, to get stuff done. And I think that it was, quite successful. You don't maybe get everything you want, but you get a good bill that everyone can support and move forward. And the end game is to get to the goalpost with something. And even if it's a 3-pointer, you're better off getting there than you are not getting there at all. So anyways, are there other questions of our guests this morning? If not, and do you folks have any further suggestions for us? No? Everybody, Chris?
Well, just to say, we've already connected Jim and our panel here by email, so that is up and running.
Good. And Betsy?
Just if there was particular timing you'd like us to work towards, when you'd like to see this back in committee.
Well, we're going to do their chicken bill next week, I hope. And we've got, we need to get yours going as soon as we can. Because if we don't hustle along, we want to, I think by crossover date, we want this baby to cross over to the house. So, as soon as you guys feel comfortable that it's where you want it to be or where you think it should be, get back with us with a day or two of notice so that we can get it plugged into the schedule. And we'll try to, I don't know, I think that's a good idea if we could, once we get a handle on it and know where we are, we'll have a joint hearing with education to present it to them so they can, for an hour, a half hour might take just to get them on to thinking about it. Any other ideas?
Nope.
No? Good. Well, I think we're starting to roll in the right direction. It isn't that we haven't been thinking about it. We've heard a lot of stuff. So if there are no other questions, and before I let you go, anytime you feel that we need to hear something from you, don't be shy. Let us know, and we'll figure out the issue. So with that, thanks a lot for your time today, and hopefully we'll get some apples coming off that tree.
Thank you all very much.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So, what else? Is there anything else that you guys want to get going on? Hopefully, we can do the rewrite of the on-farm composting and foraging bill. It'd be good to get that out next week if we could.
We didn't change it much either, did we? Or we're not planning on changing much of it.
Well, this
No.
is where the ag agency's language,
Carry together, yeah.
he wants to deal with, what did he call them? Soil implements more broadly.
Amendments.
And my attitude is I'm open to that if it means the two agencies are supportive.
Yeah, only because we've got to have A&R with us, or it'll never move out of the next room. And I mean, they've got to be with us very supportively to convince them to even do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to hold that bill up.
No,
You know what I mean?
no.
Because we got it passed last year. We just never got it across the other body.
Yeah. Corey?
So another thing that I want to take up too, and I think in light of what the Natural Resources Committee is doing with the governor's executive order, I don't have any confidence that committee will do anything on Act 250 for the next 2 years, in all honesty. And I know there's some agricultural pieces there. So I don't know if it makes sense to talk to Becca. My understanding is the House may take up some small Act 250 pieces on agriculture in their ag committee. So I don't know if I want to potentially take some looks at that I know it's a different strategy there, but there's some work that needs to be done on the agricultural end, and then you know, I don't think the committee's going to be able to do it. So I don't know if we could maybe do some work in here to get it done.
What are the issues, Corey?
I think I'll have a bill language in the next couple of days that I can start to prime people on.
Because, I mean, I don't know, I think you guys, we all were there when we were told that, you know, we should be working on COVID issues at least this first half until after town meeting. And, you know, I don't want to get bogged down with something that's going to derail the two items that we've been talking about getting done. I think we should,
I mean, I
as
think
soon
with
as you
COVID,
can, we should.
Act 250
Is-
changes are probably related in the sense that a lot of these farmers have struggled through COVID, and some of these relief in Act 250 might help them with their on-farm accessory businesses.
Well, if there's something there that we can tweak the law, like a lot of on-farm accessory businesses we've already dealt with, you know, and exempted them from shit about everything that you could get nailed with. I mean, they can build small houses for weekend guests on land. They can put 5 on an acre or 2. You know, they can hold events that are almost exempt free. You know, we've done quite a bit of stuff to enhance on-farm businesses, I thought. So as soon as you get
I'll
a
bring
draft,
the ideas as soon as I have them all put together.
yeah, that would be the best way. You know, if it's stuff like that we did that made sense, it rolled along pretty good. I think, Chris, you guys passed that bill last year on the small tiny houses, and
Yep. That was, and I think it went into law in the miscellaneous tax bill.
yes,
So the homestead's a little more straightforward.
yeah. Brian,
I was just trying to figure out when crossover is. Is it?
it's a week after we're off town meeting week.
Yeah.
We're back the following week, so that would be the second week we're back. That Friday on the second week of March is crossover.
March 12th then. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, you can't dub around too long. You know, we've got to keep moving forward here. Chris?
I wouldn't want to jeopardize any of the bills we've been just talking about, but I've talked to some of you about this so-called right to repair on ag equipment.
Oh.
The House has taken some hearings. I filed the bill, but I think some of our editing staff have been out, so we haven't seen it yet. But and it might make perfect sense for the end of March or something. But I just wouldn't want that to be totally off. Senator Polina co-sponsored it, and the basic idea is, particularly during the pandemic, do we really need to force everybody to go to an authorized dealer to fix their own tractor or whatever? So it's an interesting issue. I hope we could take some hearings on it, but not at the expense of some of the things we've just outlined.
Yep. No. And so we'll have that. Corey will have his ideas, and the we'll try to get Dan in next week, somewhere's in the schedule, so that we can figure out if there is something that we haven't caught on yet with, and he suggests, and we think it's a move forward, we could get something across before crossover, but that'll be a secondary issue from the two main issues. Chris?
I'm reminded, it'd be good to get Ryan in to find out really what are we talking about? What do they need for payment and ecosystem services? I don't want that to drop if at all possible.
Yeah.
But it may not, I don't think it's a bill, but there's got to be some requests. So I would, at least maybe we would all do well to understand that.
Yeah, well, I think Linda's probably listening. So we'll jot that down, and then when we work the schedule, it's pretty, on Zoom, it's pretty easy to switch gears because the witnesses don't have to travel to Montpelier, if they're in an office or at home. They can pick the phone up and take, 20 minutes, half hour or an hour, and then they're back doing their regular work. So I think we should be able to do that fine. So anything else that anyone wants to bring up that we should be dealing with here, this week? Yeah, and well, hopefully Michael will be with us tomorrow. Linda, are you still on?
Oh, yeah.
Is Michael supposed to be on with us tomorrow?
He'll be here from 9 to 10, and then he has to bounce over to someplace else, but Kelly will be here from 10 to 10:45 to continue taking your advice.
Yeah. And yeah, then we've got a bunch of Agrimart, group of Agrimart farmers late tomorrow morning. So we'll have them in. Well, I guess we're good to go. Brian, maybe you ought to take Corey along as your assistant so he can get in and see the governor.
Be glad
Yeah,
to.
yeah, that talking with the neighbor's kid or something, that's not like talking to the governor himself, their parent.
No, that's true.
Well, we'll call it a morning, folks, and we'll
See you on the floor.
I guess